Good morning. Welcome to our August Worksite Wellness Lunch. First off, let me announce that our Miles for Wellness Movement Challenge team registration is now open for our fall challenge. It begins at the end of September. To learn more, please click on the link in our chat box. Exercise is so key to staying healthy, and this is a free, fun way to help you focus on moving a little more than you typically do. Our topic today is a great one. It will shed some light and knowledge on the confusing and very overwhelming topic of vitamin and mineral supplementation. There are so many out there. I mean, we even have an entire vitamin shop. And if you've ever been in one of those, you'll agree it is hard to know where to start. The topic is broad, but we wanted to use this time to educate you on some basics. We won't cover every vitamin out there, but we will take a look at some of the most talked about and most recommended. We're going to get insight on which ones may be unnecessary and how superfoods can provide the nutrients you need just as well, if not better, than purchasing supplements. We care about all aspects of your wellness as employees, not only your nutrition, including financial wellness, but because, as you know, most of these supplements are expensive. Please note that we offer closed caption for this event. If you are interested, just click on the web link in the Q&A to use this option. We're pleased to have our speaker today, Katie Godin from Lifestyle Medical Centers. Katie has been a registered dietitian for over 15 years. Her focus is helping individuals improve their knowledge and relationship with food and meet their own personal health goals. Lifestyle Medical Centers is an in-network nutrition counseling service. For those of you enrolled in the state health plan, virtual and in-person visits are covered at 100% for in-network providers. We have dietitians across the state, and to find one near you, log into your state health plan portal, which is listed on this cover slide. If you have specific vitamin and supplement questions today, based on your individual health and nutrition requirements, you may benefit from a free consultation or two with a dietitian who can make recommendations that will be useful to your individual health situation. We certainly won't be able to address every individual health situation today. As a reminder, anyone who's registered for this event will receive a recording of today's presentation as well as the recipe and a link to our webpage where we house all past cooking demos as well as invitations to upcoming webinars. During the presentation, you can use the chat box for any questions you may have, and we'll answer those as they come in, as well as with Katie during the cooking demo. I'd also like to thank the members of the NC Flex team who are also here to help with questions. Katie saved a few minutes at the end of the event to conquer any of those questions that we aren't able to get to during the demo. So without further ado, let's welcome Katie. Katie.
Sorry. I'm sorry. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
You're all good.
Thank you. Thank you, Carol. Thank you for that introduction. And I'm looking forward to talking to everyone today about vitamin and mineral supplementation. So we'll just get on started. So as Carol mentioned, we do in-person as well as virtual counseling. And so any questions that, you can't get answered today, just know that you do have benefits that cover these in-person, but also these virtual visits with me or one of our other lovely dietitians on staff, where you can get a bit more personalized care and discussion around the things that interest you and you're trying to learn more about. All right, so let's get started with our first slide here. Dietary supplements is such a broad topic. And so, basically when you think about what a dietary supplement is, it's any vitamin, mineral, herb, enzyme, probiotic, amino acid, animal byproduct that is added to the diet to benefit health. So that is a mouthful. Lots of things are out there, so much that as of 2021, the supplement industry was a $149 billion industry. And I say that only to just kind of, emphasize that it's a lot. It's very confusing. It's overwhelming. It's a lot of marketing. It's a lot of money making. So it's sometimes confusing to kind of figure out, well, how do I know what supplements I need? And, what are some of the most reputable products to look for? There's obviously various forms out there. So some are better. Certain supplements are better in some forms than others. Tablets, powders, capsules, liquids, and gummies, they have their place. So it's kind of learning. And that's where, we aren't going to get to discuss every minute detail of supplements today, but hopefully at the end, you feel like you have a better understanding and you kind of know where to go to with further questions, where you can discuss this with your medical provider, with a dietitian, or any healthcare practitioner that is prescribing this for you or trying to get you to take some. But the bottom line, I do, which will be kind of the theme of my presentation today. I'm very much someone that's a realist and understanding that, a lot of people do need supplements. But we do absorb and utilize nutrients from foods more efficiently than a dietary supplement. So it's always good to know that. And the fact is that we do need to try to put food first. That's where a dietitian can also help, is to help you understand what nutrients come from, in what foods and how to get a well-balanced diet. And then also, when to know, when do you need a supplement? When is that warranted? So, okay. Big question, big confusion. How are they regulated? So this is something that makes dietary supplements very concerning. When you walk into, I think Carol mentioned the vitamin shop, when you walk into a store like that and you see, thousands of products and you're thinking, how do I even know where to start with all of this? So, the fact is they are not regulated by the FDA, and it does require third-party verification for you to pretty much ensure that you're choosing a reputable product. And just to make it even more confusing, it can sometimes need to go through, more than just that. So third-party verification is a great first step, though. Okay, so let's talk about what that means. There are certain seals that you will find on your products that you're looking at. This is where, you can, just walk into a store and kind of, take a peek if you have time and look for them. You can also ask a dietitian and another healthcare practitioner for advice. I personally would never just go out and just say, I think I'll just take this supplement. I really don't recommend that. So I would love for people to have that conversation with a healthcare provider first so that they can give you guidance on what type of supplement to take, where to look for them, what to look for in a reputable product, what are some reputable brands. But it's also good for you to know that these third-party verification seals, like the bigger ones, the NSF and the USP, these are putting the product through further testing, ensuring that what's in the product is accurate, what's in the product is safe, and essentially what it's claiming to have in it is there. Okay. Now the big question, who should be taking them? Really, anyone who is at risk of not meeting their essential nutrients through food should be taking a dietary supplement. There's certain categories and certain stages of life that I feel people need them more than others, specifically children. And we'll get into this in a second as to why, but I'm sure you guys can already assume that, when we have a little person, if you will, that does not like to eat all the rainbows of colorful foods that we all know are good for them for various reasons. They may need a multivitamin to help make up for that, or other nutrients, other supplemental forms of things to help with that. Definitely the elderly, for the same reason. I think it just gets to a point where it's really tough due to certain phases of life where we just don't have the room and the appetite to eat a variety of foods, or the desire. Certain GI disorders can impair your absorption. And so, that's something that, is a bigger topic to cover. So I'm not going to get into all the GI disorders that impair absorption, but there are definitely issues with certain individuals, and that needs to be taken care of sometimes with a dietary supplement. Of course, if you're pregnant or breastfeeding, post-bariatric surgery, and restricted diets that may exclude certain food groups that contain essential nutrients that you can't meet otherwise, you would need a dietary supplement to help with that. Also, insufficient sun exposure. So that specifically, you guys might already know what I'm kind of leaning towards there, but that would be vitamin D. Seasonal effectiveness disorder, just to kind of throw that out for a second, that's, of course, lack of sunlight in the winter months. In certain parts of the world, we experience that more than others due to insufficient sun exposure. So a little added vitamin D could be helpful. But basically, anyone that's at risk of not meeting those essential nutrients through food, and anyone with specific nutrient deficiencies that have been told this through laboratory evaluation or physical/functional assessments by a medical provider. Again, just emphasizing that, I think I need extra vitamin D. Let me go get and start taking 5,000 IUs every single day. That's what I'm trying to get people to not do. Not that that isn't the right thing for you. You might need extra vitamin D, but I would rather that be a discussion, like I said, with a healthcare provider. Okay, so what are some of these physical signs to look for when you think of a nutrient deficiency? These are just a few. And so again, this is a longer conversation than this little 25-minute presentation I'm giving, but these are things to kind of get you thinking. So fatigue, and this is daily. This is not, and let's think about this, are we fatigued with adequate sleep? There's things that we need to kind of dissect there. Just, instead of thinking, oh, I do feel tired every day. Well, let's just start thinking about why we feel tired. Muscle weakness, skin color, pale skin, that's a big sign. Cold hands and feet, muscle cramps. If your skin is brittle, your nails are brittle. These are just a few things that I would maybe say, okay, maybe this is something that I need to take up with my PCP when I go to my annual visit next, or schedule an appointment to discuss it if you feel like you don't want to wait until that annual visit comes about. So these are just some of the symptoms, like I said. I definitely recommend regular PCP annual checkups with lab draws to assess and kind of work on the preventative side of things when it comes to certain nutrient deficiencies, though. Okay, so when you think of a dietary supplement, what are some of the benefits? And then let's talk about the risks and the limitations here. So there are definitely some benefits. I mean, as I've mentioned a couple of times already, they can aid in meeting your nutrient requirements, especially if you're deficient in certain things or lacking them in the foods that you're eating on a daily basis. They can, of course, help improve or maintain overall health as a result of that, of giving you those added nutrients. And they're a way to offer an alternative therapeutic approach to health. So certain individuals may decide that they want to try a dietary supplement with, again, the discussion with their healthcare provider prior to going on medications that may be helpful with the same thing. For example, someone who has high triglycerides might want to try a fish oil supplement first if their doctor is on board with that. So that's kind of what I mean about offering that alternative approach. So again, risks and limitations are always going to be there. And this is something that I don't, take lightly with people. So that's why when you see me, I'm not just giving you, first visit a handful of supplements that I want you to go out and purchase in order to, start your lifestyle change, because there is limited research due to the fact that they're not regulated by the FDA. They lack funding. They just don't have a lot of research behind the large gamut of supplements that are out there. Some have more research than others, and those are the ones that I've discussed or want to highlight today here in a second. But toxicity levels are a thing. We can't just go out there, especially with these fat soluble vitamins like A, D, E, and K. Think ADEC. That's how I remembered learning it through school. But those are your fat soluble vitamins that are stored in the body. They build up. And so when we think, I just need to load up on a ton of vitamin C because it's winter coming and I need, that I don't want to get sick. I definitely want you to be hesitant of that, just to do something like that on your own, because too much of a good thing can be a reality. Added expense. They're so expensive. And I know that it's also tough to remember to take all of these too. You might not even benefit from them. And there are drug interactions. So for all of those reasons, again, you always want to consult with your medical professional before taking any dietary supplements. It's one of the first things that I tell people. If they're on a lot of medications, you need to discuss this with your PCP, because I don't know every single interaction that's out there. And that's what your doctors are there to kind of help facilitate and help answer those questions too. Okay, so let's get into the supplements that I'm going to highlight today. So we are going to do some discussion on a daily multi, a calcium and vitamin D supplement, magnesium, an omega-3 or fish oil supplement, probiotic and prebiotics, fiber, B vitamins, and iron with some vitamin C thrown in there, okay? I know that there's a lot of other supplements that you maybe have questions on, and unfortunately, I'm probably not going to be able to get to all of those questions today, but I do encourage you, as I did in the beginning, to make an appointment if you have a lot that you want to cover and talk about. It's important that you kind of take that time for yourself and learn more. Okay, so let's get into multivitamins. So 40% of adults are on a multivitamin. And I know that I'm harping on food first, but I do also understand that there are people that do not have the ability to obtain all their nutrients from food. And there's certain times in your life where you might struggle with that. Like I've talked about briefly already, pregnant and nursing, children without a variety of nutrients in their diet. If you're a vegetarian or a vegan, you may need extra of certain nutrients, which I'll cover here shortly, that aren't present when we don't eat meat and animal products. Conditions that deplete nutrients in general, whether it's GI issues like celiacs or post-bariatric surgery where you don't absorb food like you used to prior, diabetes, and of course, if you are, diagnosed with cancer or if you're immunocompromised, there just might be certain nutrients that you need a little extra of. And just to throw it out there, I usually recommend when choosing a multivitamin to aim for one that's targeted towards your age and gender, only because we all need certain things in a different amount as we go through life stages. And so I feel like that's a good kind of starting point. And I'm also giving here at the very end some brands and examples of supplements that I find are very reputable brands, but also good ones to kind of keep in mind. All right, so let's see, an omega-3 supplement. I also wanted to highlight foods that went along with this nutrient. So of course, salmon and walnuts, you've got a plant-based source of omega-3, and you've got your salmon. That's one of the richest sources of omega-3 from food. So I'm always going to encourage people to try to get foods like this in, but if you can't, then an omega-3 supplement I feel would be really helpful. A dietitian or myself, or of course another healthcare practitioner, can help you kind of figure out which one to take again, I'm going to give you brands here in a second, but basically, the omega-3 supplements and foods are going to support healthy brain function and nervous system regulation. There are certain amounts that we're kind of we're kind of encouraged to stick to, and that's what the RDA stands for, the recommended daily allowance. So about 250 to 500 milligrams of a combined omega-3 profile, which I've given you there up, above that. DHA, EPA, and ALA are just the 3 common omega-3 fats that you're going to find in that supplement. Now, who would benefit from an omega-3 supplement? Those who do not get omega-3s in their diet. So someone who has limited fish intake, someone who also doesn't like plant-based sources of omega-3 fats, infants and children to help support brain development, naturally found in breast milk, and always supplemented in a formula due to that reason. And then, as I mentioned briefly, heart health concerns such as high triglycerides. However, I will point out, research does point towards food sources of omega-3 fats to support reduction of triglycerides versus supplementation. And as I mentioned before as well, we do not absorb these supplements as effectively as we do food. So, there's just going to be that give and take a little bit, but I know sometimes this, supplements are kind of something that we need to at least give a shot. And then I've just given you here some dosage information to look for, and I'm trying to give you guys, at least on each slide, how to best take it. Usually you should take an omega-3 with food because it's best absorbed with fat. And again, always talk with your medical provider, okay, before you kind of go out. I don't want anyone to go out today and pick up any supplements until they've made sure with their healthcare provider, okay? All right, so next one, magnesium. Love magnesium. About 60% of individuals are deficient in this mineral, and I recommend it to a lot of people just for that reason alone. There are a lot of forms of magnesium, and so I definitely will put people, to kind of steer them towards certain forms depending on what's going on. Citrate helps with constipation. Glycinate, which is one of my favorites, helps with sleep and stress. Now listen, I'm not telling anyone that they need to go out and stop their anxiety medication and lean on magnesium. It's a thing to try, but someone who suffers debilitating anxiety might need further additional help and medication for that. But glycinate is something that you could try about 30 minutes before bed to help kind of put you in a bit more of a restful state. And I've had people have really good success with it helping with their sleep. You've got chloride, which helps with your muscle spasms or dermatitis, and then sulfate, which is found in Epsom salt, which is a great way to get additional magnesium just by taking an Epsom salt bath a couple of times a week. And so I put there some information on who would benefit from this, which, magnesium is a lot. I feel like I could give an entire presentation on magnesium because it is such a important nutrient to get. And it's hard to get into our diet, hence why 60% of individuals are deficient. Pumpkin seeds are one of the best sources, and brown rice is another really good one. So, okay. Calcium and vitamin D. So we kind of all know, I think, what calcium and vitamin D are good for, but still there's things that you may not know. When it comes to, bone health, immune system, heart health, it does a lot. So, calcium and vitamin D are typically taken together because they're absorbed better in that way. So a lot of times you'll see a vitamin D supplement that has calcium in it because it does help facilitate the absorption a lot more effectively. And those who would benefit most from this would be someone who's, again, had bariatric surgery. There's a lot of supplements that folks who suffer from GI issues or GI malabsorption. So that's going to be one of the ones that I definitely would recommend you continue to take forever and ever if you've had bariatric surgery. Vegetarian, vegan diets, postmenopausal, if your dietary intake is insufficient, and blood levels that indicate a deficiency. And I say that because Blood values are one of the best ways to kind of indicate that you're low. And so that's, vitamin D is one of those that you can, ask your doctor to check if you're curious at your next PCP visit. Do I need extra vitamin D? We actually get the best vitamin D from the sunlight. But sometimes I know that's not always the most efficient way for everyone to get their vitamin D every day is to sit in the sun for 15 minutes. But that is one of the best ways that you can get it. And then dosages will depend on your laboratory markers. And so someone will ask, well, how much vitamin D should I take? And I'm not just going to say, well, everyone needs to be taking 5,000 IUs every single day. It depends on your lab values. Your multi would have a little bit in there. But yeah, so that's a further conversation that needs to be had when it comes to how much you should be taking. All right, vitamin B12. This one is a very popular one for anyone that is a vegetarian or vegan, mostly because B12 is found in meat, poultry, fish, and animal products. And then again, post-bariatric surgery, B12 is very important as well. So the thing you need to remember about the B12 supplements is that sublingual or under the tongue is one of the best ways to take it because it's better absorbed that way. Some people can, take a bigger dose weekly, or you could take a little bit every single day. Again, dosages need to be discussed on an individualized, in an individualized way. I'm not just going to sit here and tell everyone they need to go out and take a certain amount, but and then you can take this with or without food. So whereas certain ones do better with food, and the presentation highlights that. I'm sorry, I may have missed that in a couple of slides with magnesium. It's with food. But yeah, so just highlighting that. Okay, let's see, next slide. Iron, this is a big one. So again, you have your iron checked, and that's how you're going to know if you're iron deficient. The RDA, or recommended daily allowance, varies. It depends on an individual stage of life. And so, children, you have to be careful with. They always don't have iron in a children's supplement because of the fact that their little bodies do not need as much, and they are at risk of building it to a toxic level. Those who would benefit from iron, of course, if you're pregnant, your multi will have additional iron in there. You're prenatal, vegan or vegetarian, you're going to possibly need extra iron due to the fact that you're not getting a lot of iron-rich sources. GI disorders that affect absorption, of course, anyone that's been determined to be iron deficient through a laboratory test. And when you think about iron, I do want to mention the addition of vitamin C may help with the absorption. So vitamin C rich foods are a good way to do that. And then there are certain brands that are better for constipation because iron is prone to cause that GI upset and constipation in some. So that brand Slow FE is a brand to consider. And again, all of these things we can discuss in further detail if you kind of have something that you're, really interested in learning more about, okay? All right, so next slide here, probiotics. Probiotics are one of the most confusing things that are out there. Incredible amount of probiotics because there are so many different strains and ways of taking these strains, and a lot of it is trial and error for people. Probiotics are live bacteria. They're intended to improve / maintain the good bacteria that live in our guts and in our GI tracts. Prebiotics are food, fiber sources that act as the nourishment for those probiotics. There's just limited research, folks. I mean, that's the bottom line, but some people take probiotics and feel better. We do know that there is a lot of research that points towards post-GI illness and post-antibiotic use. If you've had a lot of diarrhea, there are certain strains that help with that. IBS and Crohn's, possibly someone with celiacs, anyone who's going through a flare that's causing diarrhea. Those are times where a probiotic may be really helpful. And then there are some that really do find they do well with one if they are suffering from constipation. There is an app that I've included on here. It's called the Clinical Guide to Probiotics. It is really a great resource if you are interested in learning more. Again, this is also something you can take, to a healthcare provider and discuss more with them. But I find that it's a really great way and categorizes what type of issue you're having and what type of probiotic strain you should look for. And then I've also heard that kind of varying your probiotics every few months can be really helpful if you're someone that really needs one. And I emphasize that because they are expensive and they aren't always necessary for you to just take on a daily basis. I would never recommend someone to just get on a probiotic as soon as they, come into my office and want to start, making dietary changes. I would probably talk about foods first, which I've given you here. Certain, yogurts obviously are a great source, probiotic drinks, kombucha, the kimchi I've done some demos with kimchi in the past. So, okay. And then fiber. So fiber is important for a lot of people. And I know that we don't always get enough in a day. And it's something that probably one of the things I recommend the most is psyllium husk powder. It's a soluble prebiotic supplement in itself. And anyone that's having issues with, constipation, I would kind of put them, or diarrhea. It can honestly help with both. It can help with just bowel regularity. It usually doesn't irritate the stomach lining, and it has the most clinical backing. So if I'm using a supplement, I'm always kind of encouraging psyllium husk powder or Metamucil first. And then food-wise, flax seeds, chia seeds, wheat bran, prebiotic foods like garlic, onions, bananas. These are good things to keep in your diet routinely to see if they can help with bowel regularity for you and getting in that fiber that you need in a daily basis. This could also be an entire presentation. Fiber that's a big one. Okay. I wanted to put some brands out here, guys. So maybe you've seen these, maybe you've not. I can certainly talk to you guys about them more in detail later, but Thorne is a really reputable company. Typically get that online. Pure Encapsulations, the same. Garden of Life, Mega Food, and Hum. Those are also good vegetarian, vegan brands that you can look for. Culturel, I mean, you've probably seen that one for probiotic after you've had any type of antibiotic use or GI bug. Centrum, I mean, Centrum is a good one. It's out there. It's, I think sometimes we just need to be made aware that some of these that we see, we don't have to go out and buy a $50 supplement always, but some are just going to be more reputable than others. Nature Made is a really good brand. Even Kirkland at Costco is good. Nordic Naturals, I steer people towards for fish oil. And for children, I usually go for Rainbow Light, Haya, or Smarty Pants. Those are just ones that have kind of been shown to be the most clean and reputable brands for the kiddos. Okay. All right, guys, I know there's going to be a ton of questions, but I do want to get started with this demo. It won't take long to kind of put it all together, but this is a fantastic, yummy salad loaded with magnesium, potassium, calcium, omega-3 fats, folate, fiber, vitamins A, vitamin C. There's so much in this salad, hence why it is called a superfood salad. So first thing I'm going to do is get this salmon put in the oven. I have it heated. I'm going to put it in the broiler on high. That's how I'm cooking it. Now, you can cook your salmon any way you would like. Sometimes I'll just do bake at 400 for 15 to 20 minutes, depending on the thickness of it. But this is kind of a nice quick way. And I like a broiler because it gets it kind of crispy. So I'm just going to drizzle just a little touch of olive oil just to kind of put on top, just a touch. All right. This is just what I do to my salmon. It's easy. And then I'm going to do a little bit of Himalayan pink salt, just a touch. I don't do a lot. And then a little bit of pepper. All right. And then I'm going to pop that in the oven, and I'm going to show you guys all my salad ingredients. I'm going to just take a spoon here and just kind of rub it in. The other thing that I've done here is I've just obviously laid my foil down, and then I have sprayed it with just a little bit of olive oil spray. Skin side down, so your skin is on the foil. All right. And I'm going to put that spoon over here, and I'm going to pop this in the oven. And I'm going to set a timer for about 8 minutes. Actually, I'm going to set it for about 6 minutes, and then I'm going to rotate the pan. So it wants you to put it in for about 12 minutes total, 6 minutes, rotate the pan, which I'll do when that timer goes off. Okay, so pretty quick when you think about 12 minutes, boom, boom. And if you don't like salmon, then you can put another protein. If you are vegan, vegetarian, and you would rather do like a lentil burger or some beans or tofu or whatever you would like to accompany this salad. Okay. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put this dressing together, which is very simple and it's so delicious. All right. So this has a creamy garlic dressing. So garlic, like we talked about, is a great natural source of prebiotics and wonderful, obviously, flavor. So what I'm going to do is I'm first going to add a half a cup, which I have measured out here just to save on time, a half a cup of plain Greek yogurt. Hold on one second and let me grab a spoon. All right, so I've got half a cup of some plain Greek yogurt. Let me make sure you guys can see everything here. All right, so I've got my bowl, half a cup of yogurt. I've got a quarter cup of an olive oil based mayo. So I'm going to add that in. I have got, let me get my little recipe out here. Okay, so we've got 2 tablespoons of lemon juice. All right, so I'm going to add that in. I have 2 tablespoons of a grated Parmesan cheese. A lot of this stuff you guys probably already have in your refrigerator. I'm going to press 1 clove of garlic. Okay, you can have minced garlic already in the refrigerator to cut down on time. And then I have a tablespoon of some fresh chives and a tablespoon of parsley. Okay. And then the last thing, which you probably also have this too, maybe some don't, is 2 teaspoons of low sodium soy sauce. Boom. And then I'm going to whisk that together. And then we're going to kind of set this aside. Okay, so this is the dressing. Super simple. The thing about this is that anything that you can kind of do the night before with this salad. Now, the dressing is pretty simple. You could definitely make that the night of because there's just not much to it. But the salad itself, so I'm going to set this over here. The salad itself does require a lot of chopping. So I feel like that is one of my kind of meal prep things is I get whatever I can kind of pre-chopped if I want to spend the extra time on that. And then I get, just save myself 5 minutes or, 5 to 10 minutes to do some chopping that night before. Okay. Does anyone have any questions though? Because I can take a minute here and answer some. And then of course I can try to answer a few in the end as well.
Okay, we did have one person who was asking if oral magnesium could cause oral thrush. Have you ever heard of that?
I I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I would have to find that out for that person.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not something that I see just kind of like jumping out at me from all the research on, magnesium, but some people might be more prone to certain things than others. These are reasons why I think having a discussion with a healthcare provider before you take anything is always really helpful. But that is not something that is like a warning that I give to people before recommending magnesium to them.
Okay. Can taking too much magnesium be dangerous as well?
It's not one of those things that's, like highlighted as ultra toxic, but at the same time, there's no need to take more. I've given the RDAs on everything in the presentation, and I know I didn't touch on all the specifics for everything. But 400 milligrams of magnesium is really the most that you need. So you wouldn't need to
Okay.
take more than that. I usually recommend 120. So I usually
Okay.
don't recommend more than that because there's no need to take more than the recommended daily allowance for that particular vitamin.
Okay. And have you ever heard of probiotics also helping with weight loss?
Sorry, Carol. I was flipping that around, guys. So I flipped that. It was 6 minutes. I flipped that, just rotated the entire pan. Okay, so it's got another 6 minutes. But what was that, Carol?
This person said, are you familiar with this company and their probiotics? It's called BIOMA.
No.
Biome. Okay. And
I'm just
evidently,
going to point out, I'm probably not familiar with most probiotic companies because there's probably a thousand of them.
zillion. Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly.
Yep.
Well, that company evidently reports that there's a potential that these probiotics can help with weight loss.
No,
I guess there's not
no research.
founded.
There's no studies. So that's where you need that further conversation with a healthcare provider because there's a lot of marketing, there's a lot of claims, and sometimes it takes very little to, put that marketing claim on their product. And so, bottom line is, yes, a probiotic that someone does may help their gut health, may help with their bloating, may see a reduction in their weight as a result, but it is not something that we would just tell someone to do to lose weight. It wouldn't be that, for me and for most, dietitians that I know I work with, and so, yeah, so that's where it does get really confusing. All the claims, all the, the big claims that they'll make, especially with weight. You guys can keep asking questions. What I'm doing right now is taking, this is 8 cups of kale, and I got the kale pre-chopped, you guys. That was something that I chose to do. Everything else I chopped myself, but the kale I decided to get pre-chopped. And as we've talked about before, kale is so much tastier and softer and, pretty bright and green when you massage it for a minute or so with a little bit of olive oil. And that's what I'm doing. Okay, so you do have to get a little down and dirty here with this kale, but it just kind of gets so nice and soft, more tender, less bitter if you do this. All right. Is there another question, Carol?
Yes. If a person thought, this person thought that vitamin K was supposed to be taken with vitamin D for absorption, is that
Yes.
accurate?
Yes. Yes. Sorry, my hands are really dirty. I need to get a wipe really quick, but yes, let me talk about that for a second. Vitamin K is very good for absorption, and I did mean to touch on that. So thank you for bringing that up. So vitamin K just helps the calcium specifically to be better absorbed, which is usually within a vitamin D supplement, but it also helps with the vitamin D absorption too. So One particular product that's been very reputable is specifically made by that Thorne company that I mentioned, and they're drops. So vitamin D drops are a great way of taking vitamin D because you can easily adjust the dosage. And it's just simple, you know? So I think 2 drops is 1,000 IUs. So if you needed 2, 4, you could just up the drops. And then when your doctor tells you that you don't need as much, you could back down. But it does have the K2 with it, which is the form of the vitamin K that you need to help with the absorption. So yes, that is definitely true.
Okay, and we had quite a few people say, is it worth it to buy these very expensive supplements versus the inexpensive ones?
No, not
How do you
necessarily.
tell?
You know, I think it just goes by the specific supplement that you're looking for. It goes by, you know, like I mentioned, Centrum Nature Made. Those are ones for certain things like vitamin D and B12. You know, these are ones that you could try, that you could do. I mean, I don't think that you always need to worry about price indicating effectiveness. I just think certain brands, depending on their popularity or, you know, whatnot, it's, you know, they're going to be able to charge more than others. And so, so there's that. But yes, I think as long as, in my opinion, it's a reputable company, it's been third party tested, that those are 2 things that I look for, no matter what the price of the vitamin is or not. But there are just certain ones that you're naturally going to find might be a little bit more expensive, especially probiotics. You know, Culturelle is the most studied, whereas you can spend $60 on a refrigerated probiotic. And, you know, so no, so I think that's where it's nice to talk to someone about these supplements before you just go out and spend a ton of money. All right, so guys, I'm gonna pull this salmon out and let it kind of cool off. It looks delicious, nice and crispy, exactly 12 minutes. And so it's kind of cooling off over there. I'm gonna start adding in some of the other ingredients to this salad because it won't take me but a second, and then I can finish the last few minutes with answering some more questions. So, okay, so we've got our bowl of kale here. So what we're gonna do next is we're gonna add in 2 cups of chopped broccoli. All right. And again, I mean, you could get that pre-chopped. I mean, the thing about the convenience is that you might pay a little bit more, but sometimes people just, you know, they know that's how they're going to eat it, as if it's already pre-done. You could also get shredded carrots versus chopping up a bunch of carrots. So I didn't. I just chopped them up because I have a bunch of carrots from Costco I needed to use. So anyway, I've got 2 cups of chopped carrots here. I've got 2 cups of red cabbage, which I love this because it just adds such a pretty purple hue. And I mean, salads are just more fun when they're colorful, and they obviously have more nutrients in them when you add in a bunch of different colors. Okay, and then the other thing is, this is about half a cup or so of roasted sunflower seeds. I'm not going to do that much. I'm just going to kind of sprinkle them in there. I love a little sunflower seed. Also, something you could do, like we talked about, is some pumpkin seeds. And you could also just sprinkle these on top of the salad versus adding them into the salad. But it does give it a nice little texture and crunch, which is nice. Okay, so we've got that. I'm going to take my little salad tongs here and kind of mix that up a little bit. And then I'm going to add in, see, this is so pretty. I'm going to add in about 3/4 a cup of our homemade dressing. All right, so I'm just going to kind of scoop out. And then we're saving just a little bit to put on top of the salmon. Let's see, I'm going to use my spoon here to kind of mix this up. It's so good. The salad is so good. it kind of gives, if you guys have had, you know, the creamy broccoli salad, it kind of gives it that little bit of a feel, that dressing with that raw broccoli. It's really good. And then the kale is just with the dressing. If you're not a kale lover, I just feel like this is a good way to experience it. There's a lot of other flavors going on. All right. Okay. So that's the salad just by itself. What I'm going to do is grab a plate here, put a little salad, and then show you the salmon on top of it. And then I'll take a couple more questions. So hold on one second. All right. So I'm going to put a little bit of salad here on this plate. I'm going to grab a fork. Make sure my salmon is nice and cooled. So one thing that I like to do, guys, is just kind of, I don't know if you can see me over here. I'm going to try to peel this skin off. And what's really nice is that it should just peel right off. Okay, so I've got the salmon on top, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to drizzle just a little bit of this dressing over the top of it, just to add a little bit more to it. And it's really, really tasty. I know, as always, you guys can't taste it, but there's so many different flavors going on, but it's lovely. Very, very good, very tasty, very simple. I think the hardest part of all of it is just the chopping side of it. So I definitely encourage there to be, you know, whatever convenience method you're going for, whether it's prepping a little ahead of time or if it's kind of going ahead and buying something that's already pre-chopped just to throw it together really quickly. Maybe it's just making the dressing and trying the dressing out and then using it with one of your already favorite salads that you love. But I think the idea behind this recipe was to just get a lot of different nutrients involved so that, you know, again, whether you need a supplement or not, I think it's good for you to try to get a lot of variety of these nutrients from food first. But yeah. So what other questions do we have?
We have one on what's the best supplement to take for leg cramps at night. I know bananas help with that because I guess leg cramps are sometimes a sign of low potassium.
Yeah. Don't start taking a potassium supplement, whatever you do. That's definitely one you don't want to do without a doctor's insight. But I would say, yeah, I would try food, like, yeah, sources
Right.
of potassium for sure. Bananas are great. I'm going to give you guys a little tip on that. Actually, my father-in-law, now I know he's 75 years old, but he swears on this. He takes just a little teaspoon of mustard and that just gets it right out. I don't know if it's the mustard seed, the vinegar, I don't know, but he swears by that. Magnesium, though, as I mentioned, does help with cramping. So a magnesium supplement could help.
Your father-in-law is probably an athlete, and mustard will help, as well as pickle juice. So
pickle juice, yes,
that helps with cramping as well.
Yes, and he was an athlete. He was an athletic director. He was he played Yukon soccer. I think he knows what he's talking about.
I think he does too. So we had another question, just a compliment that it's a great presentation, but how does steelhead trout compare with salmon in terms of omega-3? And what about farm-raised salmon versus wild caught?
Good
question. A double question.
Yeah. I always lean towards salmon for omega-3s. It's just going to have the most richest amount. I don't discredit other fish, though. I swear that could be an entire presentation in itself, specifically the farm versus the wild caught. But I just knew someone would ask that question. So I have a website for you guys to go to. It's called, and we can send this out, or maybe I could put it in the chat. I don't know what's most helpful. It's called seafoodwatch.org. It's fantastic resource for understanding all the different types, specifically of fish, salmon, but then farm versus wild caught, because that's a big debate. And honestly, there is sustainable farm raised fish. I think it's just, you got to do some talking. You got to know, you got to, go to your butcher, you got to ask about it. I think if we get farm raised salmon, sometimes it's not the end of the world. Some people may prefer wild caught for a lot of reasons, for its taste. It does have less saturated fat, but farm raised does have more omega-3s technically, but it's the sustainability of the farming that I know where a lot of people are most concerned with, which I understand. So that's a loaded question, but I would check out that website so that you can kind of do a little bit more hunting and research too. But yeah, so that's not kind of an easy answer in the last 2 minutes question, but I definitely think if you can get wild caught, that's great. You can get frozen. Sometimes that's going to be cheaper, especially if you're a Costco goer. Love it. So, I mean, any frozen is just as good. Sometimes, again, it's a flavor thing for people. They prefer the fresh, which I understand that too. But not all farm is technically bad. So you can get some sustainable farming out there. It's just a little more difficult.
Okie doke. And a general question.
Okay.
But if for the timing of spacing supplements throughout the day, for example, if someone is taking collagen supplements and it says to take them 3 times a day, if you forget, can you take 3 at night?
For collagen supplements?
Yes. Or any, how a lot of them will say take 3 a day, 4 a day. Can you take them all at once, or should you space them?
Not all of them. No, and it's not going to harm you necessarily. You just might not absorb it as efficiently. So if they're telling you to take it in separate times of the day, and the one that comes to mind is calcium,
Yes.
about 1,500 milligrams of calcium a day, but they want you to do it 500 3 times. And they do that specifically for a reason, because your body won't absorb more than about 500 at a time. So in my kind of general knowledge here, although I don't know every supplement and everything about every supplement, dear Lord, no, but I do feel like it's probably an absorption issue. You're not going to absorb it as effectively. And so I would stick to the labels as much as possible. That's kind of what I would generally recommend. But if you do it one time, no, not a big deal. Maybe you just get less that day and you start new to the next day, and that's also not the biggest deal either.
Right. Are gummies or pills more effective?
Good question. It depends. I don't love gummies, but I don't tell people not to do them either, because some kids literally won't take anything but a gummy. And maybe, it's not the end of the world to get that 5 grams of sugar. I mean, really, when you think about it. But certain vitamins for certain individuals, I would probably steer them away from gummies. For just one example, anyone that's had bariatric surgery taking a gummy multivitamin, you're not going to find iron. It doesn't exist in there. So either you're going to need to take a different iron, or you're going to need to find a multivitamin with iron, a chewable with iron, or something like that if you're having a hard time swallowing pills. So that would be one thing to kind of remember. So there's a lot of, flexibility with some of this for most, but then there are certain things that don't have as much flexibility. So I think it just depends. But in general, I would say, let's see why we're taking a gummy. I know my son, when I have gummies around, he's like, can I get another one of them gummies? And I'm like, this isn't candy, so have to be a little cautious of that. Keep them out of the reach of children.
Okay, great. Well, we've run a little bit over time, which was more my fault than yours.
Okay.
I was giving you the opportunity to answer more questions.
Yep.
I just want to thank you for this wonderful presentation, and to all our employees. So glad you could attend today. For those who had to leave early or came in late, you will receive a copy of this presentation along with the yummy recipe, which also had a beautiful display on the plate. Oh my goodness.
I'll show it again.
And
Very
our
pretty.
next event is September 19th. And I'm so excited about this one because I do think that we all have questions about metabolism and how, what affects it and how we can improve it. So I am particularly interested in that, and I'm sure many of you are. So please join us for September 19th, and then we have some great ones scheduled for the rest of the year. So stay tuned, and again, we will follow up with a copy of today's presentation as well as a link to our website that shows the rest of the year's presentations. Thank you, and a special thank you to you, Katie.
Thank you, guys. Y'all have a great rest of August, and I'll see you in September.
Perfect.
Bye.